Welcome to Season 2 of the Small Town, Big Dreams podcast. Hi, I'm Becky Waples, and this is the podcast that celebrates small town creators and shares their stories. Each week, we dive into each creator's journey, from their background to where they found their courage, from their challenges to their wins, where they found their inspiration to how they took their first step. I cannot wait to chat, laugh, and inspire the next small town creator with each of my guests. If you are inspired by small town creators who turn their big dreams into reality, then this is the podcast for you. Please rate and subscribe to all upcoming episodes. Please follow on Instagram and Facebook, and always feel free to leave a message or comment to let me know what you'd like to hear or who you'd like to hear from. This little passion project is turning into quite the adventure, and I'm so glad you've come along for the ride. Thank you from the bottom of this small town creator's big heart. Let's grow together. Thank you for joining me today. I just met you we've been talking for a while. I was on your podcast, the Ridiculously Happy Pplcast, last Monday, where we recorded. And then I got to meet you on Wednesday in person at your very cool studio to do my headshots. And I appreciate that. I've gotten great reviews. Everyone's been very excited and telling me that it was very cool that I did that, and they love them. So thank you very much for doing that for me.
You're very welcome. I'm glad that you like them. And thank you for doing my podcast, and thank you for having me on yours and all that.
I wanted to dig right in and ask, really, what do you do?
Okay. I photograph ridiculously happy people, and sometimes that makes people look at me really weird. Essentially, I'm a photographer. I mostly photograph proposals, weddings, families, and personal branding. Personal branding being headshots on steroids, all of that stuff that you can share on your social media that helps you introduce yourself to your potential customers.
Right.
But mostly the way I look at it is I help people with their mental health. A lot of people avoid having their photo taken because they don't like having their photo taken because they think that they are not photogenic. And that is rarely the case. In fact, I would argue never the case. So I help people see themselves the way their family and friends do, and then bring pieces of artwork that feature their favorite people and their favorite activities into their home so they can enjoy them on a daily basis and remember that they have a family that loves them and all of that delightful stuff.
You have a good philosophy where you say that people believe they're unphotogenic, and that's just not true.
Mm-hmm.
So let me take your picture when you're giggling, when you're smiling with your family, so you can see them, how they see you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how many of us think that we are not photogenic? I definitely was one of those people. But anytime your family would see, or your friends would see a photo of you, they'd be like, "You look great." And then you'd be like, "I look horrible. What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
And frankly, I think your family knows you better than what you think you look like in front of the mirror.
That's so true, because I have like a mirror face. Even my 3-year-old will be like, if you're like, "What does mommy do in the mirror?" He like purses his lips and like pushes his bangs to the side, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's doing Becky's mirror face." And so yeah, when I look at pictures of me, I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I wish I could have a mirror in front of me right before the picture is taken, so that's what I look like. But it's so funny because I only really know what I look like in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have, and like even when I'm taking selfies on the phone, I'm doing my mirror face. So it is kind of funny when you look at pictures that as a professional has taken, and you're like, that's what I look like? You're right. I am cute.
Yes, exactly. It's kind of wild because, I mean, when you look at yourself in the mirror, you are seeing the opposite of what everyone sees. I've done this with people before where I'm like, "You totally know who I'm talking about. I'm just going to go on their Facebook. I'm going to find a photo of them and I'm going to show it to you." And you're going to be like, "Oh, yeah."
Yeah.
And then I swipe through photo after photo after photo after photo, or selfie after selfie after selfie after selfie. And you think to yourself, this is not a good photo of this person. This is not what they look like. And you just can't find a photo that actually looks like them. And it's, the reality, like people will try to look a particular way in selfies, and selfies don't look like you because it's literally a reverse image. I did it with a friend in college where I took a photo of her and I flipped the photo and I was like, no, that's not what she looks like. And it's not what anyone looks like, the mirror image of themselves. And it's showed its ugly head in my business from time to time when people will maybe take too many selfies. And then they look at a photo of themselves that I've taken and they're like, that's not what I look like. Like, actually,
that is what you look like. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Where did you get started? In your podcast, we discussed, because we both went to Western. We both went to Fanshawe. But where did your photography business get started, or your love for photography?
So it's a very exciting story.
Okay.
When I was in high school, I was a giant nerd and I was building websites like GeoCities style. And I wanted to use photos, and I did not want to use other people's photos because that's just my personality. And so I got into photography and was spending a lot of time on like stock photography websites and posting stuff and learning how to use my camera and all of that. And then at some point I thought, well, I don't really know what I want to do with my life. So I went to school for photography. So I went to Fanshawe for photography and then followed that up with media, information, and technoculture at Western, because I thought there's no way in heck I'm going to run a business as a photographer. That just doesn't seem like a good idea. Turns out it's a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
I enjoy it very much. And it's funny how it's changed since I was in college. But
okay,
I'm sure we're going to get into that throughout this conversation.
Sure. When you got out of college, did you immediately start working for yourself, or did you sort of take a corporate job and then realize you wanted to go work for yourself, or how did that process work?
So I started my business when I was going to Western in 2010. Because my dad told me I should do that because he is an accountant and he explained to me taxes and you get your money back if you register your business. So I did that, and I ran my business for a couple of years while I was in university. So I was photographing weddings in the summers. And then when I graduated, I started working for the locally family-owned and operated business as their marketing coordinator. And I was there for about a year and a half. And it was just not the working experience that I wanted to have. And while I was having a conversation with one of my teachers from Fanshawe, talking about this working environment and all of that fun stuff and what am I going to do with my life. And at some point, he's just like, Sophia, why can you not do photography full time? And I did not have a good answer for him. So I had to go into photography full time. But it was pretty crazy because in the year and a half that I was working full time, my weddings in the summer dropped by a significant amount just because I was working 8:30 to 5 every day, 5 days a week, and didn't have time to go and do the marketing part of the business. So yeah, it all ended up working out pretty well.
Right. And how many weddings do you think you've been the photography for?
I have absolutely no idea.
Oh, you probably do 4 to 6 a summer. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, I'm in 8 to 12 maximum kind of photographer. 8 would even be stretching it. I'm not the kind of photographer that wants to shoot a wedding every weekend. I want to work with the right clients.
Yes.
Because it's amazing, the diversity in the wedding industry, and, every couple's different. And yeah, you want to work with the right people.
I was on your website and I noticed, I wasn't at the wedding, but I know Mary and Jordan, they were a wedding you did probably in Wyerton.
I think we met in Wyerton, but the wedding was at Moore's Estate outside of Owen Sound, if you are familiar.
Moore's Estate? I'm going to put that in there. How do you describe your style?
Reality. That would be the word. I find that there's a lot of trends in photography. Every year, wedding photography or family photography looks different. There's different color to all of the photos, and it's darker or it's lighter or it's really bright. Everything's white, or everything is dark and brown and red. And I don't do that. I try to edit my photos so that the color looks like, the skin tone in real life, and hope that means that these photos will last a very long time for people before they look outdated. And yeah.
I know what you mean. I got married in 2015, and we used my cousin as a photographer, and she did a great job. And all my pictures, I would say, are reality. And then I remember seeing someone else, one of my husband's friends got married, and they were showing us their wedding pictures, and they were very theatrical Hollywood style. And I was like, actually, at the time I was like, this is very cool. This is very cool.
Mm-hmm.
But now I kind of think that wasn't what their wedding was like. Like this Hollywood style. If you had a Hollywood style wedding, that would be kind of cool. But it was very theatrical, I would say.
Yeah.
And might make it for a good like canvas on the back of your wall. But you're right, it would get outdated pretty quickly.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't want to learn how to do those things. So learning how to edit those particular ways for the trends that are going on right now, like it takes a while to perfect that, or you have to buy presets or something. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to spend my time doing that. I want to spend my time working with my clients or doing my podcast or doing stuff that I want to do. So it honestly saves me a lot of time just making them look like they actually look like. And I mean, 20 years from now, I'm sure the fashion will be the thing that makes the photos look outdated.
You're right. You're right. You're right. Yes. The way that you call yourself ridiculously happy, you're saying like, I'm going to give you exactly what you look like too. Like you're not implying that you're going to give them a theatrical style of edit. So people wouldn't go with you if that's kind of what they want. Like, we're not going to vibe.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, with me, it's really about showing the reality of life. So, I work with toddlers. Toddlers have a temper tantrum like at least every half an hour when you're putting them into a situation that they're not familiar with. Yeah. They're going to have a temper tantrum. And you would not believe the crying photos are always my favorite. Yeah. It just goes screaming to one of their parents, and then they snuggle them and they wipe the tears off, and like I photograph the whole thing, and it's so cute. And often families will get those photos and put them up on the wall because they're like, well, that's
real life.
And like, they love it. Like when your kid takes a tumble and you're snuggling them, is part of you not like, this is just
Yeah. And it's so genuine from the kid's perspective too. Like this is real life. This is me being comforted by my mom. That's not something that would normally be photographed.
Yeah, for sure. And being reminded of those things is kind of a big deal, I find. A lot of the people that I work with, especially with families, like will show up to the session and like grandma is like, we haven't had a photo done since our kids were teenagers. And I'm like, that's crazy. And, it's amazing how like just having that picture on your shelf of your kid crying and you look at it every day because it's on the shelf in your kitchen. You see it every day. And like 10 years down the road, you get to look at that photo when your kid is 15 and a jerk. And you get to be like, oh my God, like this kid loves me.
Yeah.
They're being a jerk right now.
And then you can point to, remember when I was the one that made you, that comforted your tears, that made you cry? Yeah. God, my cousin, we went to Cuba and she took our pictures down there, and Cuba and me do not get along like looks wise. My hair goes poof. And I was like, no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. Like the whole week. And she's like, Becky, get ready. We're taking pictures. And it was true because my mom and dad were there. My sister's family was there. So it was all of us. And we had never gotten a photo of all of us because the last time would have been like my sister's wedding. None of our kids were there. And so I do look at the pictures and I'm very thankful she took those. I mean, I still look at my hair and be like, it would have been nice if it was not so humid, but it's like, it's not every day you get those kind of pictures. And you're right, it was real life too. Like they're very cute pictures. I was also going to say that you keep mentioning posting your pictures up on the wall. And we just renovated our kitchen and we did all the floors and we painted all the new walls. And this was actually last year, but I haven't put pictures up, and that's what I asked for Christmas. I don't need presents. Just let me have like an unlimited budget for picture frames and photos so I can put them up all on the wall again. Because we have photos from our wedding up till now, and none of them are on my walls. And I want to tell our story. And I also want my boys to be able to look at the pictures of before they were around and be like, so what's happening here and what's happening here, and tell the story of the Waples family.
I mean, we don't really think about it, I think, until people reach like our age. Like growing up, my dad we used to sit down at the dining room table with my dad, and he would go through like these boxes full of like photos and photo albums where he had taken photos of people that I've never met before but I'm related to, and he put them in the book, and he'd name and date everything he'd go through. And like, I mean, I kind of understand my family history because of that. And then my grandfather, there's a ton, and my mother's parents, for example, there's tons of photos of my dad's dad, of my mother's parents, and I never met my mother's parents, for one thing. The only reason I know what they look like is because of these tens of thousands of photos that are all over the place. And my grandpa, there was a lot that I learned about my grandpa at his funeral because there were photos everywhere, and my dad and his brother and everyone were just like pointing at photos, laughing about stuff, telling stories and all of this. And there was a photo of my grandpa on the back of a bull. So my grandpa was a cattle farmer. My dad is a cattle farmer. There's this photo of my grandpa on a bull. And I was like, what is going on there? And my dad goes, oh, yes. We used to have this bull who was so quiet, you could just climb on his back and ride him. And so we did. Like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And then now we have digital photography and all of our photos live on Facebook. And I just think that that is just wackadoodle. Like, you can't put all your photos on Facebook and expect to see them 50 years from now, because you won't, because Facebook will be gone.
Yeah.
Because your USB stick will no longer fit in the back of your computer, and you will not be able to access those photos. So yeah, you need to print them and put them on your walls and make albums and everything and put them out there and show them off and be happy about your family and everything that you have achieved in life. And it's great for kids because they get to see I have a family. I have people who love me through their entire childhood while they're a teenager, and they're dealing with all of the hormones and the stress and fighting with their friends and figuring out who they are. They always know these people in my circle who I see every day on my walls, like they've got my back. I'm good to go. Like, I have a security blanket or support system or whatever you want to call it. It's important, and people don't really necessarily think of that all the time. So in walks Sophia.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you find your clients?
Mostly my website.
Okay.
It works very well. That building websites when I was a teenager, it really paid off.
Yeah. You do have a good website.
Yeah.
I was on it not that long
Thank
ago.
you.
But I was going to ask, like, is it a lot of word of mouth as well? Or do you go to wedding shows?
I have done some wedding shows. It's not so much my sort of scene. I'm very introverted. I want to have like a one-on-one conversation with someone when I'm sitting down, and I'm prepared to have that conversation. And I'm not a fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. Some people are really good at trade shows and talking to people in that environment. I'm like, there's so many distractions, and yeah, I just can't so much. Yeah, word of mouth for sure. Certainly with weddings. And I mean, you know this because you know a few people that I have, a few weddings I have photographed. And some of them were literally, I photographed this wedding, and then the next, like 2 months later, one of their best friends is like, I'm getting married.
Yeah.
You seem to be fun. Let's talk.
Yeah.
So that definitely happens. Yeah, for sure.
What would you say is your favorite type of photography? You could only do one for the rest of your life. Would you rather do engagements, weddings, personal branding, families?
For me, the things that I photograph more so like blend into each other. So like you propose, we have the proposal photos, then you're going to get married, and then you're going to build a family by whatever means you build a family, and you're going to go into business. And so all of these things sort of fit together pretty well for me. If I had to pick one, I'd probably pick family photos, because I've just come to believe that they're so gosh darn important for so many reasons. Like, if you missed taking photos at your wedding, but you took photos with your family, you know, you're set.
As someone who has kids, my wedding pictures, they were a huge deal when we got married. My favorite things in the whole world. And then we started having kids, and I kind of put my wedding pictures away, but my kids' pictures stay up, you know? And I do. When I have the unlimited budget to put my pictures up, I will have wedding pictures up there still. But at one time, I had like 15 framed photos of my wedding in my house. And now I will keep I will keep all of my photo sessions I've had with my kids up on the wall.
You can make changes, right? Like, you can take those wedding photos, take them out of the frames, put them into books. Same with family photos. And also, like, your kids are going to want these things at some point.
True.
So you hang on to them and either like put them in books or keep them the way that they are. And then your kid goes away to college, take some photos with you.
Yeah. Do you have any ideas of how you should put your photos around your house?
All of the ideas. I mean, obviously you have your walls, right? So we have framed prints, we have canvases, you have metal prints, you have acrylics. All of those are different weights. So like depending on the wall that you're hanging on, like canvases are really light. So easy to transport, easy to store, easy to hang. Framed prints will require a little bit more strength. So you might want to have them hooked into a stud. Same with acrylic prints. They're really heavy. But then you have your shelves and side tables and everything. And for people who say, I have no wall space, shelves and side tables and everything can be really good because you can do acrylic prints like at 4x6, 5x7, and they'll just sit right on a shelf or on a table, stand upright all on their own. Then there's calendars, and you can put all sorts of prints in like wood stands or frames, like small scale. But even like if you have like small sections of wall, like putting teeny tiny photos on little pieces of wall, it's pretty cute, actually.
I was say photo books. I can't picture doing photo books for like a mini session, but my photo book for my wedding, my boys love to look at it, like really randomly.
Yeah.
And like it tells a story. So yeah, we could do something like that for.
It's just about saving them, like keeping them somewhere that you can take them out and look at them. Putting them on the wall is fantastic, but you don't have to have like a 30x40 photo above your fireplace. Like you can put, I don't know, 20 photos on your fireplace mantle. Like, why not? You know?
You're inspiring me. I'm going to go on Amazon as soon as I'm done and buy some photo frames.
It's going to be a problem. You're going to be like, I could put something there.
Yeah.
Something there.
I know. Okay, I was going to ask, where did the name Ridiculously Happy come from?
Okay, so I just made it up. I'm not going to lie. I was like, I need to have a logo. Like, I need to get this stuff together. I just like threw all of this stuff together 13 years ago. It was just like, photography for Ridiculously Happy. That's cool. That's my tagline. That's it.
I love it.
So that's literally all I did. Put it on a logo, put it on some stuff. And then I did do some like wedding trade shows and stuff like that. And I kept having business owners stop and point and laugh and be like, I love that. And the more time that has passed, the more it makes a heck of a lot of sense. Like when I was in college, one of our teachers told us, use photos of your most good-looking clients at the front of your portfolio because people are going to see that. They're going to want to look like that. And so they're going to hire you. And I thought that was awful.
Yeah, I think that
was absolutely awful. And then at the same time, most like family and wedding photographers were kind of going for the elegant, deluxe, high class kind of look. So with the black logo and the white and gold lettering, and everything was crisp and clean and cool. And that's just not my personality anyway. But I just like randomly, like my friend was doing these watercolor paintings of stuff that he liked. And they were so cool that I was like, can you take my logo that I made and like paint it like that? And so he did, and it was awesome. And I've been using it ever since. And it's just this watercolored splatter kind of camera with a lemon as the aperture in the middle. And yeah, the more time that has passed, the more it makes sense. Like life can be tough. Like crap happens, you know, like things go wrong, and yet you can still laugh with your family.
Yeah.
You know, anytime you want. Like there's still good.
Yeah. It was, a lot this morning. Like you can feel joy and pain at the same time. Yeah,
for sure.
I also think that, and I'm not knocking any other photographers, but a lot of them just use their first and last name. And so so without seeing a portfolio, you're not really sure what you're getting. And I think that brand that you've built, when I hear Ridiculously Happy People Photography, like I know what I'm getting. I feel like I'm going to have fun. Like, there's no way I'm not having fun. All my photos are going to be like big smiles. I don't picture posed pictures. I picture like reality, like candid. And so, yeah, I think even for just branding, your name is perfect.
Yeah. Thankfully, like, people ask me pretty regularly, have you worked with many bridezillas? And no, I haven't worked with very many bridezillas because my marketing seems to just weed them out entirely.
That's true. Yeah. Can you tell us about one of your favorite projects? Like, do you have like a memorable one that you love to think about?
Oh, I'm going to mention this one because I know that they would be okay with this.
Okay.
So before I spit it out, we're probably all good. So, Meg and Dan. So she was actually a friend of Amy and Tom's. So I photographed Amy and Tom's wedding, and it was amazing. And then a few months later, Meg reaches out. She says, I am getting married, and we want to work with you. Basically, I was like, perfect. This makes my life easy. So we met, had the initial consultation. They booked me and everything. And this was in November. And in January, I reached out to them and said, hey, we should start planning your engagement photos. And Meg sent this really thoughtful response. And I would have prepared it to read because it was hilarious, but also, tense. So basically, in the span of 2 months, Meg and Dan set their wedding date, started booking everything, and then Meg was diagnosed with colon cancer. And it was not a good prognosis. They were basically preparing her to prepare her entire life,
right?
And her and Dan were just like, F it, we're going to get married anyway. We went ahead with, after her first surgery, we went ahead with their engagement photos. And then the wedding was, I think, a week after she started chemo. So it was like kind of a slow moving day. She took lots of breaks because she had to, or she would be, puking.
Yeah.
You don't really want to puke at your wedding. But they just sort of enjoyed it, went with the flow for their reception. They had like big comfy chairs at the front of the reception hall where she could just sit and everyone could come and give their speech. And she just sat right there and was like exhausted and delighted. She looked so happy. That was probably the coolest, most laid back, tense thing I've ever done. And it was really awesome. Plus, she had multiple surgeries, did her chemotherapy, recovered. She's good to go now. So, yeah, that was the coolest project that I've probably done. But on an emotional level, yeah.
I don't know her, but my husband might.
Yeah. They were so laid back and had such a sense of humor about the whole thing. And it was just beautiful and it was wonderful. And I'm sure they will just be so happy with how things went forever because it was just a great experience.
And very cool that you got to, you took your time and you were obviously became their friends. Were you their friends before, or you had just met them through a different wedding?
Yeah, so I met them through Amy and Tom. So, yeah, it was great.
That's a really good story. Now I'm a little like, oh, but I like that. Do you have any favorite locations that you shoot at?
I mean, yes. They're not super exciting locations. Mostly just like public properties that are like not too busy, but yeah. Loris Estates is a good one.
I'd say.
Very cool looking. Yeah.
Very cool.
Are you ready to live kindly, confidently, and ridiculously happy? Me too. I'm Sophia Lemon, and I host Ridiculously Happy Pplcast. Once a week, I sit down with an awesome person I want to learn from, and we talk about how in the heck to balance life. Throw on your sweats and prepare to laugh, cry, and even cringe as we talk about all the bullshit that comes along with living ridiculously happy. Subscribe to Ridiculously Happy Pplcast, and that's PPLcast, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you find your podcasts, and get your shit together with us.
Very cool. Well, let's get talking about your podcast then. When did you start the Ridiculously Happy Pplcast?
I think the first episodes went out in August.
Mm-hmm.
So we did like an expedited first season and then like took a break to like fine tune stuff. And now it's coming out every week.
Nice.
On Tuesdays.
And you do it with your friend Nikki. How did you meet Nikki?
Yeah. So Nikki and I met through a networking organization. She joined as a virtual assistant and I hired her.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
By virtual assisting things. So she's just a fantastic human being anyway. So we talk about all of the ridiculously happy stuff. So she is my guest co-host when I don't have another guest on the show. And we just talk about, the different crap that people have to go through in life and business, trying to be happy.
And what inspired you to start?
I like talking about stuff. I like sharing things that I learn. So I love like a good sit down and like a glass of wine and just go bananas talking about a topic.
Yeah.
So I used to have a podcast called Double Exposure Show years ago with that teacher who asked me why I couldn't do photography full time. And it was great. It was a lot of fun, but it was geared towards photography businesses. And I just wanted to have more conversations about, things that like my clients can absorb and enjoy and appreciate. Because photography is very niche and I don't know, kind of run out of things to talk about with regards to photography sometimes. But the happiness stuff is so cool because I read like all of these books, like self-help books and happiness stuff and like watch documentaries and I just want to talk about it all the time.
Yeah. What's your advice for my listeners that want to enhance their own happiness? Oof. Like what kind of, I know it's a heavy question, but like, I just feel like let's go to the expert. How should we enhance our own happiness?
Yeah, I've been doing personally a lot of work on this myself lately because I personally have been dealing with depression for like 2 years straight and it's hard. It's hard to explain to people. Like, yeah, I know that I would feel better if I went and worked out.
Yeah.
But I don't have any energy to go and work out. So, yeah, I got caught in that stupid cycle.
Yeah, I was going to say, we did talk about that when I was on your podcast because I feel the same. It's easy to tell yourself, you have to do this.
Yeah.
And when your brain won't do that, and then your brain starts telling you all the reasons why you're bad for not being able to just get up and do it. It's like a vicious cycle.
Mm-hmm. So I've been doing a lot of work myself on like really taking a look at my feelings and figuring out how to let them go. Or for me, it's been learning how to not take other people's stuff personally, which is so unbelievably liberating, even with like clients. Like you're going to have times where a client or a potential client is like not nice to you and you don't actually have to take that personally. I remember that I had a call with a bride about her wedding and I gave her the price, wrote the email, had the quote together for her, sent it along to her. And I followed up with her and her response was like, you were insulting my husband. How can you possibly charge this much for a wedding? Like, I had a bunch of complaints and I had to like, this is the one time probably in the past where I was like, okay, that's not about me. That's about her. I had to like think really hard. I'm like, did I insult her fiance? I'm like, no.
Right.
And, so learning that other people have their issues, they get triggered by whatever, they might respond to you negatively in a way that you don't deserve rather than freaking out and screaming at the top of your lungs how you don't deserve that sort of behavior and being angry about it, just letting it go, like actually not letting it bother you because it doesn't have to bother you. That's a big one for me. And that's really tough when you're getting into business too. Like if you're trying to get started, it's intimidating and scary and you'll stop yourself from doing everything. But in life, I find that we spend way too much time working and not enough time doing the things that we like doing or spending the time with the people that we love. So I think finding a way to do something that you feel passionately about or work and then not take it home with you. So, when you're not in work mode, you can be completely present with the people that you're with and, rather than, playing with your toddler, but spending the whole time on your phone, checking your emails. No, you're actually just playing with your toddler.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one. I mean, you're always going to be able to find all sorts of stuff that you need to do or should do. I mean, that stuff's never going to go away. So having those boundaries, making sure that you have the time to spend with your family and you're going to spend that time with your family or doing your self-care or whatever, it's important. And all of you have probably heard this before. You've all probably heard, well, you need to make time for yourself. You actually need to make time for yourself.
Yeah.
You can't just work for someone else for 35 years and expect to feel happy. So you need to do the stuff that you enjoy.
When I was working a 9-to-5 job, I knew what I was doing from 8 to 4:30. Now that I'm kind of setting my own hours, I need to calendar to make sure I know what I'm doing, when I'm doing. And that is a real game changer for me because now I put in my calendar, going to the gym. So then I'm I wake up in the morning, oh yeah, I'm going to the gym. I have set aside a time. I pushed, tomorrow I have another interview. I pushed that till 9:30 because I knew that I was going to the gym from 8 to 9. And so, so then we'll schedule in there, I basically am scheduling everything now. So I've scheduled when I'm going to edit the podcast. I schedule when I'm taking the boys out for lunch or to do something fun. I'm scheduling. So now when I'm after school or whatever, I'm not editing the podcast. I used to just sit on the couch and edit the podcast because I've already set time aside for that. So now I do have time to hang out with my child. And I think if I had still had the 8 to 4:30, I wouldn't be scheduling my life so aggressively because I'd be I know what I'm doing all day. But that's a one that someone could start is just literally sitting down with your calendar and you have them on your phone. I can enter it all on my phone and setting aside specific times. And I know it sounds I don't want to set specific times, hang out with my kids, how ungenuine. But that's not, but then I feel it's so easy to not find something else to do during that hour or something.
Yep. Yeah. If you're not scheduling the time with your kids, that's going to be the thing that you push off and push off and push off because you are scheduling other stuff. So if you overschedule yourself and don't actually put in the time there to do your self-care or spend time with your kids or go on a date with your husband, you're probably not going to do those things, which is what happens to 90% of my family photo clients who haven't had a photo done with their family in decades because they just kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And time's going to go by whether you schedule it or not. Yeah. So, yeah.
This is just a random, but so my family, we always got our school pictures taken and we posted them somewhere on the wall. Mm-hmm. And I said to my husband, do we want to get all these school pictures this year? And he's like, of course. That's a good way to remember him growing up. And I'm we literally got family pictures taken, which are way cuter that I'd rather give family members and post up on my wall.
Yeah.
So maybe the days, I still like looking at them, but I didn't buy them this year. I didn't buy all these this year because I'm I'd rather get family pictures done every year. And that be our expense and that be our fun way to just remember each other.
So here's a pretty good illustration of what I'm talking about you need to be in photos with your family and you need to make the time to do it. So he's growing up. Every year you get a photo of him at school and you put that on the wall. And then, so what are you showing him? You're showing him a photo of him alone. He is alone. True. Okay, you get family photos. You have photos of the whole family together in a photo on the wall. What are you showing your kids? You are showing them that they are together and have a community and are loved. And people, you don't think that it's going to have that impact on your kids. Whatever, they know that they have family. But these are the things that kids struggle with when they're growing up. If their parent's working all the time and doesn't make the time to, spend time with them, they feel like they're alone. If they don't see photos of them and their family together, they might feel a little bit like they're alone,
Right.
So, it's the scheduling. I love that you're doing family photos and I'm sure that there is a solo photo of him as well that you could get and put on the wall,
Yeah. No, but I haven't, the way you say it is so perfect. Yeah, that because they have dorky little smiles. You can tell. I remember getting pictures taken. You didn't feel comfortable. You're kind of like, especially in kindergarten, like, what do I do? What? Okay. And obviously they're cute. But yeah, I want my kids to look at the pictures of us having fun. Yeah, like the memories there were way better. I hope that they look back and just remember, like, yeah, that was a fun day. I did this with my mom. We did this, and my dad. And
yeah,
the family pictures I have of me and my family growing up were the pictures that my church took to put in their like directory. And so we'd all get dressed up and we'd go and we'd smile and pose in front of, and they'd be like, okay, Dad, like stand behind the girls, you know?
Yeah.
So obviously there's pictures of us having fun too in like the little 4x6s in our little photography books. But the pictures that we would have posted around the house were those ones.
Yeah. That's awesome.
You're right. Like even without even realizing, my kids will look at these pictures and just have happy memories rather than just being like, there I am alone. You're right.
Yeah.
I've never thought about it like that, but
we don't think about it. And like, I love that you're scheduling in like your workout into your calendar. Because like, yeah, if we don't make the time for these things, there will never be time for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love it.
Okay, so let's talk about growing up and living in a small town and how that affects your podcast, how that affects your photography. You grew up in Owen Sound?
Well, technically I grew up outside of Owen Sound, so I can't even say that I grew up in a small town. I grew up in the country.
Well, okay. Small. Yeah.
Yeah.
You went to high school in Owen Sound?
I did. OSCVI.
Oh, yeah?
Which no longer exists.
No. Yes. How does living in a small town affect your photography? How does it affect your business?
And see, this question I don't really think about very often. But yeah, it's interesting. I find it's like, sort of easier to connect with people, but also like in a community like this, there's like 70 billion photographers. So I think it probably pushes me to differentiate a little bit more creatively, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true. I guess there are a lot of photographers in this area. But I also think that it kind of goes with your philosophy where like the more photographers I see advertised or the more times I see people taking family pictures, the more I want them. The more like the average consumer wants them. Yeah. And so you do have to differentiate it a little bit more.
Yeah. It helps too that it means I'll be working more with the right type of client. I see a lot with photographers when someone comes on the scene and is charging very little for the type of service that I provide. And you'll see photographers going, oh, they're devaluing what we do by charging so little. And I just don't believe that. I don't believe I'm in competition with someone who is charging $200 for a family photo session.
Right.
I don't think that the person who is booking them would book with me. And there's such different personalities. Like my friend Kendra is a photographer. She photographs pets. And she and I have very different personalities. And we have often commented on the fact, like, someone who's going to work with Kendra is not going to want to work with me. And someone who's going to want to work with me is not going to want to work with Kendra just because we have such different personalities, which is going to change the experience entirely, despite the fact that we have roughly the same prices and kind of the same services.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. And yeah, you definitely want to differentiate with the marketing aspect of it, which can be fun. But that would be my nerdy side.
Yeah. I feel like in the city, I have friends that go and they use she's like, well, this photographer only does maternity photography, or this photographer only does baby photography. A friend of mine, she went to a photographer who only does like smash cakes. Like she only does the 1-year-olds. So she makes the cake. Yeah. She has like an elaborate setup. And I guess if I was going to, like if me and my friend got the 1-year-old smash, ours will look very similar. But then she can be very, niche. Because there's so many, because it's such a big area.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which in this small town, I guess you kind of have to offer more things, but you also can set yourself apart from the other photographers.
Yeah. And I mean, with photography, people will travel. So, I mean, people will come to work with me from hours away, which is cool. And also I can travel to them, which is also excellent. Yeah, it's interesting. I think maybe running a business in a small town is just better for my mental health, for being perfectly honest about it. Because if I didn't see sunshine or stars, I think I'd be like, this is messed up.
Me and my husband lived in the city, like Guelph in London for 10 years. I'm not even like a beach goer, but not being able to like go and put your feet in the sand in the summertime because it's like too long of a drive is actually just depressing. I'm like, so where do you guys go to the beach? Thinking they're going to say like, there's one like 20 minutes away. Like the quarry, that's not a beach. No, where's the beach? Or when they're like, look at all the stars in the sky. And you're like, this is nothing.
Yeah, I see 5.
Yeah. Yeah, where I grew up, we didn't even have streetlights on our road. Like, it was literally just stars at night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you guys don't know what you're missing out on.
Nope. People don't. When I was in London and I'd come home, like every weekend, and it'd be dark by the time I got home, and I'd get out of the car and be like, holy shit. Oh, yeah. There's stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I want to know if there's like challenges that you experience by being a small town. We kind of discussed it, but like specific challenges maybe?
People would probably comment on the driving. So a lot of my work is in the Collingwood area, for example, which is about an hour-long drive for me. And I work with a lot of families who are not from the area, so they're vacationing in the area and they're hiring me to come and photograph their family. And 9 times out of 10, some dad or grandpa will be like, oh, like, how long was your drive? And I'll be like, about an hour. And they're like, whoa, that's a lot of driving. And I'm just thinking, well, I mean, I went about 50 kilometers in an hour. And if I were in Toronto, where you come from, I would have made it around the corner, which I have experienced before. I have had a shoot in Toronto where I was like literally 5 minutes away and it took me forever to get there.
Yeah.
So people look at it as a disadvantage, but I think it's an advantage. Like, it takes me an hour to get to Collingwood. It takes me an hour to get to Port Elgin. I'm like pretty central and out of the way, and I do not get stuck on any 400 series highways.
Yeah. In the winter, it's a little bit different, but yeah.
Oh, no, that's just an excuse to stay home. If the weather is not good, if it is not safe for me to drive, I am not driving. We come up with backup plans for situations like that for my clients. But, you know, in general, if it's not safe for me to be driving, I am not going to be driving. No, that's how it's going to work. Yeah. Not worth it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about working from home now. Because I used to be like, I have to leave early because if I'm late, then boys will get picked up from daycare and I don't know what the roads are going to be like. And it's never fun at all. I hate it.
It's stressful, and it's stressful because it's not safe. It's not a good idea. It shouldn't happen. If you don't absolutely have to be there, and by that I mean you're not in emergency services, you should probably not be going to work when it's not safe to be driving the road.
That's crazy. Yeah. Oh, you have your beautiful studio there. I was there on Wednesday. How often do you shoot in your studio versus on location, outside, nature?
So I mostly just do personal branding in the studio. Very rarely will I do family photos here. I could do some wedding stuff, but I mean, usually that stuff's all done outside, you know? So it'd be an okay, like, backup location if it was pouring rain and the wedding happened to be in Owen Sound, but mostly all I do here is personal branding and headshots. But I do obviously do lots of meetings.
Oh, okay.
That.
Yeah. I have been to a photographer before, and they had like I said, like setups, but that's not really your style.
No. Yeah, I'm the laziest person that you will meet. Like, I'm not lazy, but I'm like very efficient. I don't like carrying more stuff than I need to.
Mm-hmm.
I have a holster that goes on my hips and carries 2 cameras, and that's how I operate at a wedding. I don't need to carry my bag around with me everywhere. I don't use backdrops in my studio. I have like different areas in the room where I can take photos that have a different vibe, and yeah, that's how I do it. I like things to be straightforward and efficient and easy. And yeah, that's about it.
Cool. Well, I was going to ask, like, if someone is listening and they wanted to pursue a career in photography, like, what advice do you have?
Take business classes.
Yeah.
That would be the thing. If you want to pursue a career in photography, do a business class. So you can learn all of the photography stuff without, going away to school or taking a course. Like, YouTube will teach you everything that you need to know about photography.
Right.
Like, absolutely everything for free. But yeah, you need to know all of the business stuff. When I was in school, like, our photography program was designed so you could set up your own business afterwards.
Oh, okay.
And it's not like the best business training by any means, but like, our program dropped by like 50%. Like, half of the students left after the first year just because, the handing in of assignments by a deadline was not working so well for them. So, the business part of it is what you'll need to learn. The photography part of it, you can learn having fun, just fiddling around.
I'm just looking up here what the courses are. I think that's very cool that was basically teaching you how to start your own. Like, that's cool.
Yeah. Like, we did a business plan and everything. We had a marketing class, but
I think that would have been very helpful, learning how to actually start your own. And yeah, like, if the best way to learn to be a photographer is probably taking photos.
Yeah, exactly.
Small business management. Yeah. Small business management, photo ethics. Very cool. Oh, I always like to ask, do you have a small business hat? Are there key lessons that you learned? Is there something you wish?
That's a good question.
Is there something you wish someone had told you before you started your business? And it's more like, you said, like, take a business class. Like, that's going to be the hardest part. If you like photography, the photography part is going to be easy. The business part is going to be the hard part, right?
Yeah, for sure. I'm really big into efficiency. If you can make your business as efficient as possible, you're going to save yourself so much time and so much headache. Invest in a good CRM, so your client relationship management software, and that is not QuickBooks. QuickBooks is not a CRM.
Shoot,
so you want to you use QuickBooks for your bookkeeping.
Yeah.
QuickBooks is for your bookkeeping, so that's great. But for running your business, so all of your contracts, your payments, contact information, all of your pipeline stuff, you need a platform to take care of that stuff. And if you can build in like automated emails and reminders and make templates for emails that you're sending out often, that will save you a ton of time. So much time. And that time you can spend, hanging out with your family or doing more work. So
perfecting your skill. I interviewed a photographer last week and she said the same thing. She said, invest in a good CRM.
Yeah.
So that's all really I have. Is there anything I missed that you wanted to discuss or talk about?
Cool. I don't think so. Except that your episode is coming out next week with it.
Oh, that's very exciting. I haven't got to listen to the one that came out this week. So came out, today?
Yeah, just this morning. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. And mine's out next Tuesday. That's exciting.
Yay.
Well, I always like to end with a rapid fire. So I don't have a ton of questions, and I think we've covered a lot of them, actually. I wanted to know if you like vibrant and bold or dark and moody. What would you prefer to?
I like both of them, but I don't really do either of them. If anything, it's bright.
And how?
It's dark and moody.
Ridiculous.
Work with the children laughing.
Yeah, maybe like a Wednesday Addams type thing. Actually, we covered all of the ones that I have on here, except for, do you prefer to photograph in film or digital?
If film was not so inefficient, I would.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I would work with film. I don't know if you noticed when you were here, but I have a bunch of film cameras here. I have a medium format camera, and I am going to tell you, digital photos still do not look as sharp as film photos.
Okay.
And they probably never will because it's pixels versus not pixels. But it's so wildly inefficient and expensive that I can't. No, thank you.
I don't know anything about film anymore, but yeah, it's like impossible to find somebody to do that for you now. You kind of have to do them yourself.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that would just, no, thank you. I don't want to develop the film or the photos, or can you imagine editing? I never had to edit photos on film, and I know how to, and I never ever want to do it in my life. It sounds awful.
Well, yeah, my other ones were like couple or giant family session. You already said giant. I put like in studio or on location. On location is my and then candid moments or posed portraits.
So for candids or posed. So most of my family photos, I'm like, go stand over there and like do this. And that's sort of where we start. And usually this is like look at each other, smooch, tickle the toddler, like whatever it is. So they like are standing there facing me, tickling their toddler, which you normally wouldn't do in public, but in a photo, it looks good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you have to do like kind of the awkward poses to get the genuine ones, I always think.
I know. And people think like, this feels weird. I'm like, I know. It's because you're talking to each other and it feels weird to have your bodies turned to the side when you're talking to each other. But just trust me, it'll look normal.
Yeah. Well, asking my classics too, does pineapple belong on pizza?
I am learning to appreciate it, but I don't order it on pizza.
I always say like people have strong opinions on that one. And yours is like, well.
Yeah, I'll eat a piece of pizza with pineapple on it.
Okay. And if you were on death row, what would your last meal be?
Man, I heard you ask someone this the other day, and I was like, what would I do? It would probably be a never-ending meal because I would have to eat everything.
Yeah, that's what I
gotta be honest with you. Like, I'm a big food person, not a foodie. I just flippin' love the taste of food.
Same.
So,
oh my God, same.
Preferably all of it. But if I had to pick right now, I'd say poutine.
Oh, okay.
With stuff on it.
Well, I think that covers it. I appreciate you joining me today. That was fun. I want to know where we can find you.
So you can find me at sophialemon.com, and you can find my photography and the podcast there as well. And then you can find me on Instagram at Ridiculously Happy People, and that's Ridiculously Happy PPL.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are the best places to find me.
And your podcast is on Spotify and Apple and
Audible and iHeartRadio and YouTube, and it's everywhere.
And yeah, you can hear me on your podcast next week, or I guess that'll be December 18th.
So they'll have to come back to it.
That's exciting. And yeah,